All right, welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. Glad you're here. I'm Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for companies, and I teach at Podcast Engineering School. Every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter, and we alternate between interviews and these daily goody episodes, which is what this episode is. So normally I interview podcast producers and engineers, and we talk about their workflow, their equipment, everything, software. And on these daily goody episodes, I'm going to talk about 12 to 13 of my daily goody blog posts that I write every day. You can actually receive these daily goodies in your email. You can receive it daily or a weekly roundup. Just go to the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. And by the way, the next semester of Podcast Engineering School starts April 28th, 2020. All right, and right now I'm using my new Rode NT1 microphone, which I am enjoying. And by the way, let's talk about Focusrite. Oh, hold on. Oh, look who's here. Wait, but that's not my announcer guy. It's a woman. All right, she's stepping up to the mic. Well, anyway, you guys know my announcer guy. He comes in a spaceship. And anyway, the ship just landed on my backyard, but a woman got out and walked up to the microphone.
Greetings, Your Majesty, Viceroy of all transcendent power. Allow me to explain why I am here instead of your previous announcer guy.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. I'd like to know. But hello.
I was able to convince your previous announcer guy, who is also my husband, that I should be your announcer woman.
Okay.
He is currently back on our home planet of Reveriton, and now I'm ready to present some important information from Focusrite.
Oh, you are? All right.
By the way, Chris, that Rode NT1 sounds good on your voice. Yeehaw.
Oh, thank you. That's great. I really...
May I continue?
Okay.
Sheesh. Okay, here we go. Scarlett, now in its third generation, is the world's best-selling USB interface range with over 3 million units sold worldwide.
All right, and you're talking about this Focusrite Scarlett series, third generation series of interfaces, right? Oh yeah, she's nodding her head.
Choose from 6 different interfaces with 1, 4, or 8 microphone inputs depending on the number of hosts and guests on your show.
That's right. So you can have 1 input, 2 inputs, 4 inputs, or even 8 inputs. So that's right. There's different models of the Scarlett. And so you got to choose which one you need, how many inputs you need.
Superior sound quality makes sure you sound your best.
Definitely.
Works with the recording software you're already using.
That's right. You're already using software and it works with that, so it's great.
Works with any type of XLR microphone.
That's right. XLR mics. You just get an XLR cable, plug it right in.
Loopback on select units allows you to record Skype or Zoom calls directly into your recording software with no workarounds.
Yeah, that loopback feature is interesting on some of the models, so check that out if you need something like that.
The new unique air feature adds brightness and presence to your voice.
Yeah, that air feature, right? It is really good. For darker microphones, that air feature can sometimes be just what the doctor ordered.
I own many of these, and the 2i2 specifically is a great interface for beginner podcasters.
Oh, you own many of these? Wow, okay.
Thank you, Focusrite, for creating awesome stuff.
That's right. Thank you, Focusrite, for sponsoring this show and for making the Scarlett series of interfaces. Really appreciate that.
I'm out. Later. Ralph M. Rivera can suck my... Oh, wait.
All right. Well, let's get into these daily goodies. Right? Anyway, yeah, the Scarlett stuff is great. Anyway, all right, let's get into the daily goodies. The first daily goodies from February 28th, 2020, and it is, I share a video that I made with Daniel Hager. We did a Twitch stream, and he was showing me Voice Meter. Have you ever heard of Voice Meter? It's for PC only, and it's kind of like Audio Hijack. I think there's also one called Sound Siphon. But anyway, Voice Meter is for PC only, so if you are using a PC and you sort of love what Audio Hijack can do, but obviously Audio Hijack is for Mac only, so you can get Voicemeeter. And anyway, in this video, Daniel walks me through his setup in Voicemeeter, and he really knows what he's doing. So that was a good video. So if you want to know more about Voicemeeter, definitely watch that video. The link is in the post. Okay, next daily goodie. When guests drastically change their proximity to their mic halfway through an episode. So this happened to me recently. A guest was joining with earbuds, and about halfway through, I had to stop the session because her earbuds were rubbing on her shirt, like that nasty rubbing sound. So I told her, oh, please remember, because in sound check, I gave her all the instructions, right? Just hold it a little bit away from your body. You don't have to hold it up to your mouth. Just hold the wire a little bit away from your body so it doesn't rub against anything. Anyway, so I stopped the session halfway through because it's rubbing, and she goes, oh, okay, sorry. And then she continued, she held the mic right up to her mouth, basically, and the level was really loud. It was way louder. The tone was way different. It was sort of distorting and peaking, and she did that for the rest of the episode. So what I had to do in post was I literally split her file in half. The first half, which was at one level and one tone, and then the second half, which was a much higher level and a different tone. So I sort of had to mix her track with two separate tracks, but that was a good way to do it because I was able to sort of match those sounds and level those sounds with each other. So it worked out pretty good. Okay, next daily goodie. All remote podcast hosts and co-hosts should record their own raw audio locally, okay? All remote podcast hosts and co-hosts should record their own raw audio locally. Look, because if you're hosting a show or you're a co-host, then you probably have decent equipment, right? You bought a decent mic. Maybe you have it on a boom arm even, right? Because if you're a podcaster, if you're hosting a show, you can sort of get some decent equipment. You don't have to spend a lot of money. But here's the thing. A lot of people who have decent equipment, they still just rely on Squadcast or services like that to record their audio. And I don't think they should do that. I think you can use Squadcast. Squadcast is great. In addition to that, record your own audio locally. Always. It's just, first of all, those local recordings will be better quality than Squadcast by a little bit. A little bit better. But it's also a backup in case something goes wrong with Squadcast. And same with co-hosts and stuff too. Like everyone who can record themselves locally should record themselves locally. It's just good practice. And again, it sounds better. Okay, next daily goodie. How I recently handled a panel of 4 to 5 people recorded on a single track. Okay, so of course, it's a piece of audio I got from a client where there was 4 or 5 people on stage at an event, and they were presenting for 40 minutes, and there's all these different voices. There's 4 or 5 people, and they each have their own lavalier microphone, and it's all recorded on one track. And of course, certain people's voices are way louder, and certain people's voices are way lower. So the disparity of the levels is huge. So what I did is I used a bunch of processing to level it out. And by the way, Mike Thomas in the comments made a good point. He said that, hey, if there's no crosstalk or if there's no one talking over each other, what you can do is actually level section by section. So take like let's say the first person speaks for 3 minutes. You can just highlight those 3 minutes and level that. And then the next person talks for 2 minutes and you take those 2 minutes and you level that. First of all, you can only do that if people don't talk over each other, because if they talk over each other, it's just going to be a complete mess. And in the situation of the episode I was producing, people were talking over each other, so I couldn't really do that. The other thing is the noise floor is going to be raised a lot for some of those speakers, and that ends up sounding very weird when all of a sudden there's like a lot of background noise, and then the next person starts talking, and then there's much less background noise. So it's weird, right? I mean, look, this entire scenario is something that we never want to deal with, but sometimes at events, they just record the event on one track. So I used compression, vocal rider, multiband compression, and more compression. So, and of course I use multiple compressors and stuff so I can use each one gently instead of just using one compressor and trying to, use it aggressively. All right, next daily goodie. Not shortening comedic awkward pauses. Okay, so sometimes people make jokes on podcasts, and sometimes pausing is part of a joke, right? So here's the thing. As editors, if you see a fairly big space where there's no sound, basically, typically editors were just going to, cut a lot of that space out, to quicken the pace of the episode. But here's the thing. If people are making jokes and there's comedy involved, you got to be careful with cutting out that space because, jokes need to breathe and jokes have comedic timing. And if you go and mess up the timing, you can really actually mess up the joke. So anyway, just an interesting little tidbit there about editing. Like, and even besides jokes, it happens in just a normal conversation. Sometimes there's a weird little pause, but then, sometimes there's a pause and then everyone laughs afterwards for some reason. So, but if you shorten the pause, then the laughing seems weird. So, all right, next daily goodie. Using a zero latency limiter to boost your live stream audio. And I wrote this post because I was trying to figure out, I think I may have even talked about it in the last daily goodie episode. I don't know. But I tried to use FabFilter, the Pro L2, which is a limiter, and also the Pro MB from FabFilter, which is a multiband compressor. They both supposedly work in zero latency mode. So I was trying to process my voice before sending it out to the stream, but I don't know if I was doing it right, and I didn't spend a lot of time, testing this at all either, right? But what I found out was there seemed to be some latency. And so what happened was, because look, I wanted to process my voice locally so it was really great and then send that out to the stream, right? At a good level where it sounds good, everything's good. But anyway, I ended up giving up on these plugins on the way to the stream because they were causing a little bit of latency. So then on the stream, the picture would be off with the sound slightly, and that's no good. So I ended up just, I'm using my channel strip as I always do to add a little bit of compression, and then that's all I do now. I just stream it out that way, and, there might be some plosives that go out, mild plosives because I'm using wind protection on my microphone as well, but I just decided to not get too fancy. But, look, this is what we do, right? We test stuff, right? We try stuff and see how it works. That's how you learn. And I'm not afraid to try stuff and learn and fail if I have to. I don't care, right? I'm learning. I'm always learning. Okay, next daily goodie. Supercast. Supercast is kind of like Patreon, but even more suitable for podcasters? ? So I haven't tried Supercast, but apparently it's a platform that's kind of like Patreon, but it's for podcasters. And anyway, so if any of you have had experience with it, I'd love to know your feedback on it. No one left a comment on the post yet, but apparently you can use Supercast to share exclusive podcast content with your listeners. You can offer paying subscribers an ad-free feed. Oh, that sounds like kind of not a nightmare to set up, but then you'd have to basically produce 2 different episodes, right? One for ads and one without ads. Not a major deal, but whatever. You can add a private podcast to your existing membership. Don't know what that means. Deliver courses and professional development. Okay, so you could probably just sell a course through there and sell access to your back catalog. All right. Well, I don't know. Does anyone sell access to their back catalog? Oh, you know what? Dan Carlin does. Hardcore History. But how much does he charge? I think it's was it $1 an episode? So I think if you paid like $50, you get all his back catalog. It wasn't much. It was a good, like, I thought it was a good price. It was like $1 an episode is like, okay. I mean, especially for Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, which is probably arguably one of the best podcasts ever made. And it's still being made, of course. All right, the next post is with Florian Schartner. That was episode 172 of this show. I hope you liked that episode. That was a good one. Next, Daily Goody. My guest appearance on Wild Tracks with Rick Veers and Gary Allison. This was 2 parts. I literally recorded for 2 hours with these guys on video. And the show's called Wild Tracks. Tracks is spelled Traxx. Wild Tracks. And the links are in this post. But also, you can just search Wild Tracks on Facebook, I think they are. And I think they have a website too. But Rick Veers is a great guy. He invited me on the show. And so for the first hour, we focused on, they were asking me a lot about my history in the studios working on music back in the 90s. And so we talked a lot about my history and my past and stuff like that. So if you're interested in hearing that, you can do that on part 1 of my appearance on Wild Tracks. And then part 2, we got more into podcast production, which was, pretty cool. All right, next Daily Goody is 5 types of reverb explained. So there's a lot different types of reverb. You got, the hall reverb, makes it sound like you're in a hall. You got chamber reverb, makes it sound like you're in a chamber. Room reverb. Then you got plate reverb, which is usually my favorite. Plate reverb just has this thing about it that I love. And spring reverb, which is related to plate reverb because plate reverb and spring reverb are similar because they actually send the electrical signal somehow through a metal plate or through a metal spring. And then on the other side of the spring or the plate, there's a sensor that senses the vibration of the plate and then turns it back into an electrical signal. And then, so it's crazy. It's like literally using a plate and a spring to create reverb. But anyway, it's a cool article. It's actually an article from, it's on Sweetwater. The link is in the Daily Goody post. Pretty cool. Just for general knowledge of reverbs, it's good to know. Okay. Next Daily Goody is the PreSonus IO Station 24C. Okay, this is an audio interface and production controller. I don't know what they mean by production controller. I haven't tried this piece of equipment. Maybe Bandrew has. I'm starting to say that with every single piece of gear, piece of hardware that I talk about, or microphone or interface. I'm like, I've never used it, but I wonder if Bandrew did a review on this one. Anyway, the PreSonus IO Station 24C. It's a 2x2 interface, USB-C. So 2x2 means 2 inputs, 2 outputs. So I'm assuming it has 2 XLR inputs. Costs around $300. It's from PreSonus. Some people really like PreSonus stuff. I haven't tried much of it. But, $300 interface, I don't know. I don't know how good the quality is, but it seemed interesting to me. Okay, next Daily Goody is a video. And it's from the guy who does White Sea Studios. If you have seen him on, I don't know his name, but on YouTube, there's a channel called White Sea Studio. White Sea, as in SEA-C. White Sea Studio. And he makes all kinds of great videos about mostly music production and audio production. He covers plugins and stuff. Anyway, he did a video on why many analog emulations are snake oil, right? So you got these plugins that are trying to emulate the classic hardware. Some of them do it really well. Some of them, they don't do it that well. And in the video, it's really remarkable how he really shows you all the different harmonics that happen through the plugin, and that when you use hardware, lots of different harmonics are created. Lots of them going up into frequencies up to 96K and beyond, like really high frequency harmonics. But in the digital realm, obviously you don't hear them because they get cut off. But anyway, obviously I can't explain the whole video here right now, but anyway, go watch the video. It's from March 9th. That's the Daily Goody. The Daily Goody was March 9th, and the video is linked in the Daily Goody there. Next daily goodie, stomach growling picked up by a condenser mic. Oh yeah, baby. I was actually recording a guest who was sort of reading an essay for one of the shows I produce. And apparently he hadn't eaten, and literally he was using a condenser mic, and the room he was in was not that great either. It had quite a bit of reverb, and it was touchy. It was, like when someone has a Blue Snowball or a Blue Yeti and they're in the wrong type of room and they're not super close to the mic. Like, I mean, we all know that situation, right? We've all dealt with it a million times. Anyway, I heard his stomach growling between some of his sentences. So I literally had to edit out stomach growling. Just, I don't know. That was weird. But anyway, just eat something before you go on the mic, I guess, maybe. Next daily goodie, maintaining the synchronization of all tracks recorded simultaneously in the same space. So here's the deal. Let's say you have 4 microphones set up around a table in a room, 4 mics, and then you have 4 people sit around the table and have a nice conversation, and you record those 4 microphones on 4 separate tracks. Great. Lovely. But be careful in post-production that you keep all those 4 tracks lined up perfectly at all times. And the weird thing is, sometimes when you're doing post-production in a DAW and you're moving, maybe you're sliding some stuff around or cutting stuff or doing ripple editing, sometimes that synchronization of those tracks can get messed up. And then what you're going to hear is some weird little room echo, because they're not synchronized. So just be careful. That's the point of this daily goodie, is just to be careful when you have several mics that were recorded in the same place at the same time, obviously. You just make sure they stay synchronized in post-production. All right, next one. Is this the last one? This is the last one. This is a good one too. All right, mixing into a compressor on the master bus. Mixing into a compressor. What do I mean by mixing into a compressor? Well, a lot of times what I do, in fact, all the time, I put my mastering compressor on my master bus of my DAW. So I use Reaper. So on the master fader of my DAW, I will put my mastering compressor. And then I'll build my session. I'll, bring in the tracks, and I'll start to mix this, edit and mix the session. But the whole time, all the voices that I'm hearing are running through that mastering compressor. So because I know a good setting on that mastering compressor, so I just leave it there for the most part. And so as I'm mixing, as I'm maybe compressing and EQing specific tracks, I'm not only hearing, let's say an EQ. I want to EQ a person's voice. Well, I can adjust the EQ and I'll hear the changes, but the voice that now has EQ processing on it is going through that compressor. And so you're hearing the EQ, but as you change the EQ, it might change the compression a little bit, slightly. So you're sort of mixing into a compressor. So whatever changes you make on the individual tracks, they have a little bit of an effect on the mastering compressor. Especially, and of course, the biggest effect is volume, right? If one person is at a good volume and the other person is way low, as you push up their level, it's going to hit the compressor, the mastering compressor, more. It's going to compress their voice and change how it sounds. So it sounds complicated, but it's not. And the reason I like it is it actually helps level the voices to the same loudness level, because it's hard to explain, but as you adjust the level of each voice, let's say there's 2 voices, as you adjust the levels, you'll hear the balance change a little, because the mastering compressor is sort of compressing them both in different ways, right? So it's nice. I don't know. I always love doing that. I do it pretty much every episode. All right, well, that is it. I hope you liked this episode. I hope you liked my new announcer woman. Don't forget, you can receive the daily goodies in your email either every day or every week. And of course, if you haven't joined the Podcasters Lounge, it's a Facebook group, Podcasters Lounge, and a live stream. We do a bunch of live streaming. So jump on the live stream, hang out, say hello in the chat, tell us what your show is, and we'll bring your I will find your podcast online and I'll bring it up on the screen on the live stream and we'll talk about it for a minute or so. So come by the Podcasters Lounge, hang out. And of course, the Podcast Engineering School next semester starts April 28th, which is very soon. And the next one will start, I believe, the end of June or early July. I don't have the exact date. Actually, I do have the exact date, but I can't remember. And okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. All right. We'll see you next time.